All right. Look, this is a big topic and each problem is kind of long. Okay, so the notes video is going to be a little bit longer than usual. The notes are going to take 2 pages. So notice I'm going to start on the left side. Okay, I'm on page 70. I'm going to start, which is on the left, and then page 71 is on the right. If somehow your page numbers have gotten mixed up, you need to just turn to the next blank 2-page spread, and the left side is 70. Okay, because this is a big topic and it's a tricky one, but we can do it if we have good notes that we can reference. Okay, this topic is writing an equation of a line from 2 points. Okay, I'm going to be given 2 points and I'm going to end up with an equation of a line. Okay, now we might remember that in order to find the equation of a line, I just need 2 pieces of information. I just need the slope and the y-intercept. That's all I need, right? In order to find the equation of a line, I need 2 things. I need the slope and the y-intercept, right? So the question is, if I'm given just 2 points, how am I going to find the slope and the y-intercept? Okay, now here's what we're going to do. In this first column is going to be your directions. Okay, and now you're going to write here, this is going to be example number 1. Okay, now we're going to go down, I'm going to do directions and an example at the same time down the page, but then we're going to continue onto this right side and do some more examples because I want to make sure I show you all the different situations you could run into. Okay, oops, sorry. So here's what you're given in example number 1. You're given 2 points. And I want to know if I draw these 2 points and I draw a line through them, what is the equation of that line? Okay, now, if you had a graph, you could do it. You could draw, right? If you had a graph that went up to 8, you could draw those 2 points, you could draw the line, and you already know how to look at a graph and come up with the equation. But what if we don't have a graph and we have to do it just using math, right? Just figuring it out. Now, remember, we need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So we actually already know how to find slope from 2 points. So we're going to start with that, and this finding the y-intercept, that's going to be our new skill for today. Okay, but step 1, you're going to find slope using the slope formula. Okay, now the slope formula, you know the slope formula. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, and once you find the slope, that's m, right? Remember, we only need an m and a b. Okay, so let's start with this. I know when I find use my slope formula, I say x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to say, okay, so m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 8 minus 2 is 6, 5 minus 3 is 2, and so this equals 3. So in this particular example, my slope, my m, is 3. Now notice what I did. I boxed it and I put an m underneath it. The reason is I'm going to want that number later. I'm going to come back for it. So I'm just making it easy for myself to find. Okay, now step 2. And this is where some people get tripped up. Okay, but you're going to choose, so you've been given 2 points. Now you're going to choose 1 point. It doesn't actually matter which one. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer regardless of which one you use right now. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to choose smaller numbers. I like to choose positive numbers. Not because they're better, but because they're easier. Okay, they're just easier. It's not, there's no more correct, right? I can choose either of these points. They're both totally fine. But this point, this is going to be your x and your y. Okay, and you're going to see, you're like, well, why do I need an x and a y? You're going to see in a sec. So I'm going to choose a point. In this case, I'm just going to choose the numbers that are a little bit smaller. So I'm going to choose 3, 2. And I will tell you if I chose 5, 8, totally fine, not wrong. Okay, but just bigger numbers. So this is my x value here and my y value here. Okay, now why do I need an x and a y? Here's why. I already have an m, and now I have an x and a y, and why is that important? Is because look, here there's 4 letters, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have a value to plug in for 3 of those letters, I can find out what the 4th one is. So my next step, step 3, is to plug in y, m, and x into y equals mx plus b. So let's see what that looks like, right? I have my m already, so that's 3, right? I have my y is 2. And then my x is 3, and this is m times x, right? This is multiplication, so you need to write this as multiplication. You could use the dot, you could use parentheses, you can use whatever you want, but it's got to be multiplication there. And now we have plus b, because we still don't know b, right? That's what we're trying to find out. Because remember, I only needed 2 pieces of information, m and b, and I already have m. So I'm just looking for b right now. Okay, so that's step 3. I plugged it in. Now, step 4 is I'm going to solve for b. Remember solving equations? We're just going to do that junk, right? So we're looking to get b by itself. That's what it means to solve for b. So how would I do that? Let's see. Here I have 2 equals. I'm going to just bring that down. 3 times 3 is 9. And then, okay, I'm trying to get b by itself. So right now 9 is being added, so I'm going to subtract. And I get negative 7 equals b. So hey, you know what? I'm in good shape right now, because remember what I needed? I just needed an m and a b. And look what I have. Here's my m. I boxed it so I could find it easily. Here's my b. I got it. Okay, so now I'm ready to plug, m and b back into y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to have my equation. Look, so y equals, in this case, my m is 3. It's right here. mx. Now my b is negative 7 minus 7. And this is my answer. That's my answer. Okay? So that's the left side of the page. I'm going to move on to the right side of the page. And look what I'm going to do is write level with example number 1. I'm going to do example number 2. Okay, and I've chosen my examples carefully so I can kind of show you all little things that might come up. Okay, so here's example number 2. So here are my 2 points. Notice I have some negatives this time, all right? So for some of you, that's like something that really trips you up, but it's okay. We're going to make use of it, right? We'll just make use of this example to help you. Now, look, I'm just going to continue. I'm going to follow the directions, so it's a little tricky, right, because I'm kind of like over here, but you're just going to use these same directions that you just used, and I'm going to, right, I'm just going to use them, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to just follow them. So my first step is to find slope using the slope formula, right? I'm going to do that first. Then I'm going to choose one point, right? I'm going to go through the same process. Okay, so step 1, find slope using the slope formula. So here's my x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, I'm doing example number 2 here. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Negative 5 minus 3, that's 5 negatives, no, 3 negatives, that's 8 negatives. This becomes 0 plus 4, right? This 2 negatives right next to each other becomes 0 plus 4, so that's 4. That's negative 8 divided by 4, so that simplifies to negative 2. So this is my slope. I'm going to write m underneath it, right? Just so that it's easy for me to find. Now my next step is to choose one point. Now I'm looking for smaller positive numbers, right? In this case, I have a positive and a negative, and I have a 0 and a negative, right? I'm going to just go ahead and choose my point with 0 in it. Now, if I had, remember, I can choose either point here, so it's not, there's no wrong answer. There's just usually an answer that's like a tiny bit easier, but this is my x and my y. And now my next step, remember, I'm plugging in y, m, and x into y equals mx plus b. So here's my y equals mx plus b. Okay, and I'm plugging in. So my y value is negative 5. My m is negative 2. My x is 0 plus b, right? B, I still don't know. That's what I'm going to solve. So now I'm solving for b. So let's see what's next here. So first, over here I multiplied, right? I did 3 times 3. And over here, when I multiply negative 2 times 0, that's just 0. And I actually don't need to write it, right? Like this is 0 plus b. So I've kind of already solved for b, right? Because I could like subtract 0 from both sides, but no, that's just silly. That doesn't make any sense, right? So there's my b, right? So I now have my m, and I have my b, which means I am ready to write y equals m x plus b. And I'm done. Okay, now I'm going to show you one more. Thank you for sticking with me, because there's one more situation that you might encounter. Example number 3. Here we go. Negative 2, 4, and 2, 10. Okay, and you might notice right away what this new situation is. Okay, we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I get 6 over, this is 2 plus 2, 4. I'm going to reduce. Please make sure you reduce. It's going to make your life a lot harder if you don't reduce, because then you're going to have to work with this bigger fraction, right? Because we're going to have to do some math with it. So here my slope is a fraction, which we know slopes are fractions all the time, so we're not worried about it, but it's just going to mean the next step is just a tiny bit trickier. I have to choose a point here. Now, in this case, I'm kind of choosing between dealing with smaller numbers and a negative or dealing with larger numbers and a positive. Again, it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm just going to go ahead and choose 210. If you want a little challenge, want to mix it up, go ahead and choose the other one. Doesn't matter to me. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in to y equals mx plus b. I'm plugging in my y equals m x plus b. Okay, now notice here is where this third example is just something a little bit new. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do, you should have some space up top here, right? Because you just kept your examples in line right here. So I'm going to just do a mini lesson right here on multiplying a fraction by a whole number. How do I do that? Right? And here's what I'm looking at. I need to do this multiplication right here. 3 halves times 2. 3 halves times 2. Okay, so how do I do that? It's real straightforward. You got 2 steps here. Multiply the whole number, right, by the numerator. That's the top. And then divide that, whatever you get, by the denominator. The bottom. Okay, so watch. So right now I have 3 halves times 2. So I'm going to multiply this number times the top. So 2 times 3, that's 6. And then I'm going to divide that, right? So that's step 1. I multiplied the number by the top. And now I'm going to divide by the bottom. Okay, divide by the bottom. I get 3. Okay, but this is always multiply the whole number, multiply by the top, divided by the bottom. Multiply by the top, divide by the bottom. Okay, so in this case, this multiplication is 3. 3 halves times 2 is 3. So I'm going to I'm still following my other steps, right? So I'm still solving for b here. I'm going to get b by itself. So now I have my m is 3 halves, my b is 7. So y equals m x plus b. Thanks for sticking with me, folks.